It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Happy Friday, I'm Tyler Keefe, joined as always by Kevin McIntosh. Happy Friday to you as well, Kevin.
Hey, Tyler, happy to be here per usual. Don't take it for granted. Another day, another opportunity to talk to the community. We got a lot to talk about, too. Let's get to it.
Yeah, it's been a fun week here in Greater West Bloomfield. A lot going on and a lot to celebrate in our community as well, Kevin. We know that it's tough over the years to keep in communication with a lot of friends and keep some of those groups that you join and leave and come back to over the years. But at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library, they've been hard at work keeping one of their local groups together for over 4 decades. Reporter Jake Schaff has the story as the library celebrates one of its unique community groups, its Book Talk group that's been joined at the library for all of these years. Jake.
The joy of reading has always been a strong one here in West Bloomfield, and there's no better place for avid readers to come from all across the community to talk about the next great story than with Book Talks, a monthly book club event that takes place right here at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library that's been happening for the last 40 years. 40 years of telling stories, sharing memories, and building that ever-strong love of reading. What is Book Talks?
It's the library's version of a book group. Every month, 12 months a year now, we choose a book. The facilitators, the people who lead the discussions get together. We choose the books for a 6-month period. And then each month we do 2 conversations about those books, where those of us who call ourselves facilitators lead the conversation. We don't try and lecture or teach about the book, but rather think of it as a library-based book group. And 1984, August of 1984 was the very first book talk. And the interesting thing is that nobody really knew that. When I got involved, somebody handed me a whole bunch of the bookmarkers that we print all the time to show the book talks, what they're going to be. And when I realized that this August was 40th anniversary, I said, that's a good excuse for a party. So we're partying tonight.
And it's great that all of these people bond together just simply from the joy of reading.
Absolutely. We're all readers and we love reading. And if you're a reader, there's nothing you like better than sitting around talking with someone about a book. Whether you loved it or whether you hated it, having other people to talk to about it is a great thing.
How long have you been involved with Book Talks?
6 to 7 years after I retired. I enjoy it. I look forward to once a month gatherings. And it's nice to hear other people's thoughts on the book that I have read. Sometimes it opens your eyes. Sometimes you find out what somebody else is thinking about the same book. Or if something you have not kind of understood, it helps to understand that.
Everybody is friendly, everybody's sharing their knowledge of books, everybody's talking about books. It's exactly what we hoped would happen tonight. I sat down at a table with somebody who did not know anybody here who came, and I said, let me join you, and we started talking about books, and the conversation just flowed, and as people kept joining us, it just grew more and more. It just was absolutely delightful.
What do you think people get out of attending Book Talks other than just learning about brand new books?
I think one of the things they get is they get to meet other readers, and I think that's important. I think it ties them to the library, and this is an amazing library, one of the best in the country. A 5-star library, according to the Library Journal, and I think that it's 12 of them in the state of Michigan. That's pretty amazing. So it also makes them library patrons and library fans and library supporters. And the other thing the Book Talks do is they bring people into the Friends, and the Friends are major supporters of the library.
Book Talks may be 40 years in, but there are still plenty of stories to tell and plenty of connections to be made. And as the club turns the page into a new chapter of celebration, it'll be exciting to see just what those stories are and how the community will continue to bond over the joy of a good book. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
Appreciate the story from Jake and the team over at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. A big congratulations on 40 years of book talks, Kevin, and quite the turnout there for that big party. A lot of readers loving books right here in Greater West Bloomfield.
A lot of great points too, Tyler. I love the perspective of knowing that, hey, I'm reading the same book as a community or a group of other people, so I get a different perspective. If there's a point in the book that I didn't understand, someone else may understand. They can bring that opinion to it too. And then just the energy, like you said, even them saying that someone just showed up and didn't know anyone, that just goes to speak volumes to the magnitude of that event. So great story right there too, Jake. Great story.
Yeah, another great way for people to get involved in the community, as Diane and others from the Book Talks Committee and participants had said, they do that every single month of the year, once a month book talks. They got plenty of time to get involved, get that next book read, and get out there come September for their next meeting at the West Bloomfield Township Public Library. More information on that and other events at the library are always on their website at wblib.org or on their Facebook page at West Bloom LIB. A couple miles away in the city of Keego Harbor. Plenty of fun coming up this weekend and into next week. It all begins on Sunday as you have a chance to get outside and play in Baxter Morgan Park, the location of one of the newest disc golf courses in the entire state of Michigan. It was just installed there a few months ago. It's a 9-hole course that is open to the community all throughout the year. And Driftwood Creek Disc Golf, which helped to install the course, get all the equipment that was needed to put this new amenity into the heart of the lakes. They'll be holding one of their summer clinics coming up this weekend. It's a clinic, it's some open play at Baxter Morgan Park, 11 a.m. to 12 noon at Baxter Morgan Park on Sunday. Is some free play and an opportunity to get to know the game a little bit, get to learn a little bit about the game, and spend some time outside with other people and some of your neighbors in Keego Harbor. Jake Steinbrecher from Driftwood Creek Disc Golf joined us previously on the Splash Live to explain a little bit about what this activity will be like come Sunday.
The clinics are more intensive than open play. Open play, we'll get together and play around. We'll break off and have some seasoned veterans on each card just to make sure that the way that we're playing is correct, because that's one thing we'll go over in our clinics. So we'll go over the game, the rules, the flow, all of that sort of stuff, but also then some technique, and try to incorporate all elements and all components of those specific techniques, including your drive or your first shot, your approach shot or a scramble shot, and your putting. So go over all of those types of things as well. And then each week as we meet, we can kind of delve deeper into into each of those aspects.
And Kevin, whether it's disc golf or pickleball or even flag football we've talked about recently, these growing sports in our community that are getting people engaged. And this is a really cool opportunity for people in Keego Harbor or even in neighboring communities that just want to try out disc golf or are interested in this or think, this could be something that is a fun activity I want to get into. It's an opportunity for them to learn and meet other people in the community that they can then go back to Baxter Morgan Park later on and play some more games this fall or next spring and next summer and beyond.
That's correct. And I learned a lot from that interview too, just about disc golf in general. It's not played with just a traditional frisbee for the most part, and it's just so much more that goes into it. It's a science, it's an art, and it should be respected as it is growing. I'm happy that we do have that right here in our community. So great interview, and I think that's a great resource to have in our backyard.
That's a really good point. After that, the course had opened, their grand opening weekend event a couple months back, we sent Jake Schaff out there. They sent them back with a Keego Harbor disc golf disc itself. It's a lot heavier than you would expect it to be. Definitely different than a frisbee or another disc that you're just throwing casually or playing maybe ultimate frisbee or something like that. It's a little heavier, a little bulkier, and that's why it travels a little further. It's got a little more weight to it and doesn't bounce off of those disc golf nets. Really interesting sport. You'll get a chance to play that again Sunday, 11 a.m. to 12 noon, a clinic and some open play at Baxter Morgan Park. And then, Kevin, beyond that, it goes from sports to cars in our community, really throughout the rest of the weekend and into Monday.
Yeah, if the community is looking for anything to do this weekend leading into next week, Monday, car show season is making its way into West Bloomfield. Even if you're not even a car fan or enthusiast, still Sunday, August 11th, the West Bloomfield High School robotics team, aka the Atomigators, they're hosting their second annual car show fundraiser at West Bloomfield High School. A lot of things that you can learn from the robotics team about what they have going on. So just in case, if you may not be interested in cars, you can at least check out what they have going on 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Then you can follow along with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. They're taking the community on a local historic automotive scavenger hunt across the community with their poker rally. We'll have more on that and some of the feature stops later on in the program. But then Monday, the Heart of the Lakes is the Heart of Automotive Mania at the 27th annual Gino's Pre-Dream Cruise Car Show. It never imagined that it would even be as big as it is today right here in Keego Harbor. Just as the man himself, Gino Santia, actually told me earlier this week, it was something that just sort of happened right in the community and it became a local favorite. Here's his explanation of how the tradition got started.
I think we were having a class reunion, a West Bloomfield class reunion, and we all decided to go down to Woodward. And it was just so exciting down there. I thought, boy, I wish I could do something like that. And one day, I just decided to do it on a Monday before the cruise weekend. And I put it on our billboard, Classic Car Show tonight. And the first year we did it, that was the only advertising I did. We had about 60 cars show up. And
Really?
since then, we've had well over 200.
That's very amazing to see. It just started with him just putting a sign up on his own business. But from there, it's a day that everyone pretty much marks on their calendars right here in Keego Harbor, much to the joy of Gino and his family himself, who have the honor of hosting one of the premier events of the year.
I think other than in our local community here in Keego Harbor, other than the big Memorial Day parade we have every year on Memorial Day weekend, I think this is probably the largest event we have in our community. And I don't know for sure, but I did at one time that City of Keego even had it announced on their website that the date and the Classic Car Show at Gino's. So it's kind of a gathering for the community. People walk here, ride their bikes here. More of the outskirt people will drive here, and it's a full parking lot and it's a full event. We have tents out there with face painting. We have a disc jockey playing music, usually the classic music, the oldies. And we have a hula hoop contest for the kids, a limbo contest for the kids. So it's a happening kind of thing.
Yeah, for 27 consistent years in Keego Harbor, Mr. Santia has been hosting the Pre-Dream Cruise Car Show, with the exception of COVID, by the way, which put a hiatus on everything. But that was the only thing that could stop this car show, because not even the Cass Lake Road's closure in years past stopped the community from bringing out the classic cars to 1999 Cass Lake Road.
When they did the road construction, we were shut down. There was no traffic through here except through the back way, but we still had the car show, and we had a black shirt with a truck, with a work truck that was kind of hauling dirt around. It was really kind of cool. People still will wear those shirts. Every once in a while, you'll come across somebody wearing one of those old shirts.
That's the 27th annual Gino's Pre-Dream Cruise Car Show. That'll be at Gino's Pizzeria and Restaurant in Keego Harbor and Santia Hall. That'll be on Monday, August 12th, 5 p.m. until dark. Enjoy classic cars, great food, music, and best of all, we're expecting you to be there too. You want to find out more, go directly to their Facebook at 1999 Cass LKRD. More information. Great event for us to turn out to, Tyler.
And looks like the weather's going to participate too. Partly cloudy, looking like it's going to be in the high 70s, maybe the 80s. Perfect weather for a car show. Get that little hazy sun overhead as it starts to set near the end of the day. Enjoy some classic cars and good company down at Gino's on Cass Lake Road. Best part of all, no construction on Orchard Lake, no construction on Cass Lake. So no reason for you not to get out into the heart of the lakes to continue car show seasons. We head toward the Woodward Dream Cruise. Good news here in Greater West Bloomfield, Kevin. Unfortunately, not good news everywhere in our community, as we've seen throughout the summer a number of drownings across Oakland County on a number of different lakes.
Yeah, from talking about celebrations to a ceremony of honor, at least. A man who recently drowned in Oakland County Lake was honored by Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard. His name was Marcellus Quentin Carter, 20-year-old Detroit resident who tragically drowned after saving his co-worker's life while they were swimming in Taylor Lake in Rose Township in Oakland County. The story just basically goes, Marcellus and his moving crew who he worked with were out enjoying time in Taylor Lake, like we mentioned, and one of his co-workers he saw was struggling in the water. Marcellus jumped into the water to save him, which he did, but he ultimately sacrificed his life in the process. Marcellus underwent water. He went underwater, and his body was actually lost during the initial rescue search, but they did find his body and recovered 13 hours later by the divers. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard honored Carter after his death for his bravery with a citizen citation that he presented to his mother, Daylene, by the way, at the sheriff's office in Pontiac. So the sheriff emphasized the significance of Carter's sacrifice, highlighting his courage and selflessness that led to his tragic yet heroic death. It's unfortunate, but it's great that Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard and everyone did take time to honor him and his death, along with his mother also. You can see that picture and find out more about that story on their Facebook at OCSO Michigan on Facebook, OCSO Michigan. Very tragic and unfortunate story, Tyler, but we're glad that his life was honored in a great way.
Yeah, and he gave his life in this case to save the life of a co-worker who otherwise likely would have been the one who drowned in that case, and wasn't able to make that sort of heroic life-saving effort for themselves. And that really tells you who Marcellus was as a person, why it was important for us to honor him here in our community through our Oakland County Sheriff's Office. And it's an unfortunate situation, Kevin, but this very different from what we've seen in so many other drowning situations all throughout the summer, several of them across our communities, and that brings to light something we need to discuss as a community, keeping safe on our local waterways. Because look, the summer's coming to an end, but boating season still is in full swing. People are out on Orchard Lake, out on Cass Lake, and are having their fun, but safety has to be paramount.
And you took the words right out of my mouth, Tyler. We have to talk about that. If we're going to talk about the unfortunate situation, we got to talk about how we can prevent that too. So join us right here on the Splash Live, talking about some of the recent Oakland County Lake drownings and water safety as well from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department Specialized Unit Patrol Services Division. We have Lieutenant Brian Burwell. We appreciate your time, and let's just get straight to it. Can you take us through some of the recent incidents and then some of the common factors between them, please?
Well, unfortunately, this is our 10th drowning this season, along with a number of boating accidents. I think the higher temperatures we've been experiencing as a lot more people are partaking in the water. And, a lot of the common factors in those are they're choosing to swim in areas where there's not lifeguards. Some are choosing to swim in areas that are not designated swim areas, and those always increase the risk of something happening. And in a lot of these situations, with drownings, people enter the water and within, it's a nice sunny day, they start their morning off and they, go out to the lake, and then within seconds you're in the fight for your life, and people in the water, panic sets in. So, the biggest thing is to swim if you can, pick areas where there are lifeguards, especially if you're not a strong swimmer, and, the lack of flotation devices, life jackets and personal flotation devices not being available or accessible.
You know what? You mentioned a few things that I want to kind of dive into a little bit more, but I want to ask this next question. But thanks for providing that. How do communication barriers impact rescue efforts like the unfortunate incident that just recently happened?
Yeah, the one you're referring to, the Kensington one, it was unfortunate that there was a miscommunication. Today it's more easier now, I think, to communicate than ever because of the apps on the phones that have translating apps and things like that. In this situation, the individual, I don't think he really felt comfortable maybe talking to certain people. He ran to a different area. I think waving your hands, pointing to the water. There was a bystander who did witness that drowning and called and summoned authorities. The problem was that person had left the area. So some of the first responders weren't sure, because normally when somebody goes underwater, there would be a family member or somebody reporting it. This gentleman had seen somebody go under, was fairly confident, and with all credit to the Kensington Metro Park Police, they immediately initiated a rescue response, even though there was some confusion that,
Right.
hey, you guys are saying this is going on, but we don't know. Nobody else is on shore. They didn't hesitate. They instantly activated our search and rescue team, which was responding. And that's the big thing is to get response going, get the fire, get the police, get the sheriff's office going.
Right.
We can always cancel that response if it's not needed. And that's the outcome we ultimately want, is to get there and somebody say, hey, we were mistaken. And unfortunately, this situation, the gentleman lost his life.
Yeah, very, very unfortunate. But I would love to take this as a learning lesson so we can try to prevent having an 11th incident this year. So thank you again. With us right here on the Splash Live, Lieutenant Brian Burwell, specialized units for Oakland County Sheriff's Office, just talking about the unfortunate drownings that's been happening in Oakland County and how we could possibly prevent those. So let's get into that part of it, if you don't mind, Lieutenant. What specific emergency capabilities and flotation devices should people be looking into or preparing before they even hit the water?
The biggest thing is, not swimming alone, swimming with a buddy. When you go out to the lake, have somebody with you when you're going in the water. Have some type of life jacket with you or flotation device. Make sure it's size appropriate. If you're taking small children to the lake with you or to a swim area, again, there's a reason those swim areas are dedicated. That water doesn't have a quick drop off with inside a swim area. So it's a safe area for you to swim. When you venture outside those swim areas, sometimes the lake will drop off quickly, which will put you in a little bit colder water, which will cause you to cramp up, could cause you, obviously, panic sets in. One of the things I would say is that if you are charged with, overseeing small children in the water, drownings happen in less than seconds. You're talking the potential for
Correct.
within 20 seconds for somebody to drown or less. That you can't be sitting there reading a book. You can't be texting, messaging. You can't be taking time. If you have children in the water, you have to keep your eyes on them. And along with anybody who's in the water is, it's not just about observing the people you came to the beach with, but everybody's looking out for everybody's safety. And this Kensington one you spoke about, this gentleman was in the water with his small child. He looked over, he was watching everybody, and that's when he saw somebody struggling. And so everybody should be watching out for each other when you're at the beach. Don't just focus on the people you came with.
Correct.
Focus on everybody.
Correct.
And, and the other thing, too, is all public beach areas, they do have rescue equipment there. They have a throwable device. They have usually some type of rowboat. Always at the first sign of trouble, call 911 and get first responders responding immediately.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Some information that I wasn't privy to, but some of that equipment being available at some of these spots and locations. So I think people should be a lot more aware of that also. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe you did mention that you all offer some type of water safety classes or courses at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Sheriff Bouchard, I think we lead in education around the area for our boater safety classes and various other safety classes we offer, all free here at the Sheriff's Office. Of course, with our partners at the DNR, we have a great work relationship with the Department of Natural Resources, the conservation officers. We teach joint classes. We also, Oakland County participates in the Southeast Michigan Dive Group. We work with multiple agencies. We do the boat show with Wayne County, Macomb County, and other places. These classes are all free right here at our search and rescue building, and we offer them also satellitely. So if you go to the DNR website, you can sign up for them. And we're always looking to push out more education on that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And we'll be here to spread that and spread, continuously push that also. Before we let you go, Lieutenant, if you don't mind, Are there any steps being taken currently to increase public awareness about water safety and importance of these flotation devices and other devices we have available?
Well, our sheriff has taken a big initiative with pushing safety. These last few years, we've been pushing our boater safety classes back and rolling more of them out. We are in talks right now with different legislation in Lansing to try to come up with more grants available for some of the other counties to make people more aware of. You know,
Gotcha.
Oakland County does offer our classes are available for anyone to attend, but we also need the other surrounding areas to be doing education as well. And unfortunately, there's not a lot of reimbursement or funding available sometimes for those classes. And we're hoping to work with some legislation to maybe see if we can roll out some grants for that.
Yeah, sounds like it'll be very, very helpful if we were to get a little bit more funding. We know the state is doing different things with allocating funding, but hopefully we get any and everything that we need to increase public awareness in regards to this so we can limit, if not stop, these fatalities before the end of the year. Hey, we appreciate you again. Thank you again, Lieutenant, for being here. Any additional information you want to let the community know before we let you go?
Just remember, those life jackets are so important, those throwable devices, having them on your boats. And, the biggest thing is if there is an emergency, I can't stress this enough. People sometimes don't realize, taking a first aid or a CPR class is so important. So if an unfortunate incident does happen, you know what to do. And, just not taking the water safety classes, but also take a first aid and a CPR class.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great information. I'm glad we had the word from someone like you where it actually matters. Thank you again, Lieutenant Brian Burwell, Specialized Units for Oakland County Sheriff's Office, talking about water safety. We appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you so much.
Once again, great information shared by our Lieutenant Brian Burwell out of Oakland County Sheriff's Office. And again, like he said, they do offer classes as well on water safety and things of that nature. So for more information, go to oakgov.com or visit them on their Facebook, OCSO Michigan on Facebook. A lot of great resources available for our community, Tyler.
Yeah, and important resources too, so that we can have a safe and fun time out on the water. We got a few more weeks before boating season starts to come to an end, and people stop going out to swim as we head into the fall season and out of the summer. And so keep that in mind, whether you're going out on the lake just for a quick swim or you're going out for a day with friends and with family. Keep that all in mind. Make sure everybody knows the safety protocols, and you have a plan if someone does fall overboard, if someone is having trouble staying afloat in the water, to take quick action, and if you need to, call the authorities, because the last thing we want to do is have additional drownings this summer on our lakes in greater West Bloomfield and across Oakland County. And when that does happen, when these incidents do happen, our local police authorities and sheriff's office authorities do respond and do help out as they can. But when these things turn tragic, Kevin, they can have an effect on our officers, as do other incidents across our community. And that's why there is currently a greater focus on mental health for our law enforcement officials across our local area.
Yes, it is, Tyler. As a matter of fact, in a neighboring community, just to bring it up, the Farmington Hills Police Department is the first in Michigan to provide comprehensive mental health crisis response training to all 131 of its officers, recognized by the Michigan Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, also known as MCOL. So to dive into that a little bit more with our local police department, join us right here on the Splash Live. We have Deputy Chief for West Bloomfield Township Police Department, Dale Young. Appreciate you for being here, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Doing just fine. I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit about this from some neighboring communities that are experiencing or going through some mental health responses and training and things of that nature. What role do you see West Bloomfield Police Department playing in supporting mental health initiatives in our community?
Yes. So one of the things I'd like you to know is the fact that in West Bloomfield, in the police department, that we've been investing in mental health training for some time. One of those initiatives is actually the crisis intervention team training. It's an initiative that we've been committed to eventually get all of our officers trained in. And we've been doing that probably for several years now. And as openings are available in the CIT training, offered by Oakland Community Health Network. We're sending people
Okay.
at least a few officers a year.
Interesting. So, like Tyler mentioned earlier, we have to kind of look at it on both sides of the coin. If we're being real, right? Officers who deal with certain incidents on a frequent basis, as well as people or residents in the community who may be calling and dealing with mental health. So, can you speak on the resources available for the? I mean, is there a difference between the resources for the residents and the officers, or can you just talk about the difference?
Absolutely. So everyone, including the community and the officers, have access to Common Ground Resource and Crisis Center. Their organization is open 24/7, and there's actually a phone number I'd like to share. It is 1-800-231-1127. And that phone number is available 24/7, and it allows someone to be connected with someone in the mental health field that would be able to assist them in whatever crisis that they're going through at that time. For the employees that we have a couple different avenues for them. One is our employee assistance program, and then the other one is actually our peer support team, which, as the name implies, it is made up of other police officers within the West Bloomfield Police Department that offer an ear to the officers that might be experiencing some health issues, in whatever moment.
No, I get it, and trust me, as someone who knows law enforcement, best friends with some, I understand, like, you deal with a lot, so I know those resources are important for the officers and for the department as well. It's not just for residents. But with us right here on the Splash Live, talking about mental health and resources in general from the West Bloomfield Police Department, we have Deputy Chief Dale Young. Now, how do you feel the relationship between local law enforcement and community mental health organizations can possibly be improved to better support individuals who are experiencing these mental health crises?
I think the collaboration between law enforcement and those organizations is critical. I think it's critical for the community. I think it's critical for the officers within the department. And one way that we can improve that relationship is just to be around each other more, to educate each other on what we can bring to the table.
Yes, and I think that's so important too. More collaboration between local communities who do focus on that, and law enforcement who kind of look at situations from a completely different perspective. Also, to have your word and kind of say that kind of makes sense and puts it together. I want to pick your brain about a slightly different topic. We were kind of looking through some incidents and talking about Oakland County Sheriff's Office significantly improving its drone usage since its initial attempt in 2012, integrating it in almost all operations. So with that being said, in what ways do you envision the use of drone technology within your law enforcement department at West Bloomfield Township?
So, Kevin, right now we do have a few drone assets, and we have a number of people that are trained as drone pilots, and we have used them in live events several times. And what I could tell you is, much like the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, their position on how drone technology is going to increase, get better, and that you'll see more agencies going to it, I totally agree. I think that what you're going to see is that we're going to invest more heavily in drones as the years continue. We're looking at the Oakland County Sheriff's Office and looking at the model that they have for something called drones as first responders. And although we are not to the point where we can have as robust of a fleet as they do, we are confident that over the years, we're going to at least have what we need for West Bloomfield.
Got you. Completely understand it. And as technology grows and technology usage grows, and we start to see real live examples of our local law enforcement using these drones and actually solving some of these crimes and situations, we can only understand why we advocate for those. So with us right here live on the Splash, Deputy Chief Dale Young from West Bloomfield Police Department, just talking about mental health resources technology resources within West Bloomfield Township. When we are using these drones, though, we have to be honest, and I'm really looking forward to your answer on this. There's still a balance between using it effectively for public safety as a tool and also respecting privacy of other residents who have nothing to do with it, you know, possibly looking into that. So how do you all balance that relationship in that line also?
So we've had drones for a number of years now, and one of the first things that we did is that we crafted a policy to make sure that we are policing ourselves, but also that we are respecting the laws surrounding the use of drones, which, by the way, drones are unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS for short. And just to give some examples of the ways that we use them, it could be that somebody has walked away from their home in the middle of the night. Maybe they have Alzheimer's or dementia or some other impairment, and it allows us to get a different view by flying the drone in the area that they were last seen. We've also used them on accident reconstruction scenes where the drones go up in the air and they're able to take measurements and pictures that are more precise, and has become very helpful in those investigations. And then, of course, if there is a critical incident, and I'm going to completely make this scenario up, but I'll, give you a good example. If we get a call about a person with a gun that is pacing back and forth in some parking lot, one of the ways that we could use the drone is that we fly it out there and we get a bird's eye view of what's happening at that time, relay that information to the officers so the officers can respond to that scene more safely, and the safety for public and for that individual.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad you provided that just that example also, just to kind of put it in perspective of how it's used and how it can actually help the response time and the safety of our officers also. I really do appreciate and respect that. Hey, while I do have you, Deputy Chief Young, any additional words about your resources, mental health resources, or anything of that nature for the community?
Just I want to reiterate again that anybody feeling like they are in crisis, I encourage you to contact Common Ground Resource and Crisis Center. They're open 24/7, and that phone number again is 1-800-231-1127.
Thank you again. From the West Bloomfield Township Police Department, Deputy Chief Dale Young. We definitely appreciate your time and information, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely. A lot of great things to discuss and to learn about, Tyler, in regards to, like we said, mental health issues and how we address them as either residents or as the police department locally addresses those. So it's good to see that they already have things in place and they are actually using different things of technology to kind of help them in their safety and their role within the community, Tyler.
And again, mark that phone number down. It's at the bottom of your screen as we speak on civiccentertv.com, 1-800-231-1127 will bring you to Common Ground, a local crisis hotline and resource line. And you can always also call the national line at 988 that's been in effect for a couple of years now. It's the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, simply 988. But for more localized service, Common Ground, 1-800-231-1127. Kevin, on a more positive note this weekend, as we mentioned earlier on, car show season is making its way in the Metro Detroit in Greater West Bloomfield. It all kicks off on Sunday morning and afternoon at West Bloomfield High School. But then after that, people will be leaving that car show in their classic cars and going all throughout the community to some historic places and some places making history, collecting poker cards and trying to win a friendly competition. One of those locations is the brand new Pontiac Transportation Museum. And joining us now on the program is their museum board chairman, Terry Conley. Terry, tell us what this new museum is all about.
Pontiac's got a wonderful legacy in wheeled vehicle transportation. Starts with carriages and proceeds into trucks and cars. And everybody knows about the Pontiac brand. Pontiac was also home to the GMC brand, which is still active, obviously, in GM. And it turns out there's actually a total of 47 manufacturers of vehicles that worked in Pontiac over the years. And I'm not talking about selling cars. I'm talking about building and engineering cars and trucks.
And to connect that back to our community, I mean, you're participating this weekend in this historical poker rally that involves classic cars and car lovers, and it's a bit of a scavenger hunt that involves the history of automotive in our community. So, now, what was the motivation behind the Pontiac Transportation Museum and just its second weekend being open, already partnering this time with a neighboring community?
Oh, we're very anxious to partner with the community. In fact, it's not just car lovers that we think are going to like this museum. The whole history of our area, obviously, is one of the automotive industry. And even people that aren't car nuts will find a whole bunch of social history in our museum that connects up how the community connected to its industrial background. So yeah, we're a stop on the poker run. We hope that that's going to attract people to come back and spend some quality time at the museum, maybe with their families and friends.
The Pontiac Transportation Museum, located on Pike Street in Pontiac, it is open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sundays from 12 noon to 5 p.m. That includes this Sunday, where it will be one of those locations that those in this scavenger hunt, this poker rally happening in partnership with the West Bloomfield High School robotics team, they'll be stopping over there. And Rick Bardis from the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society said it pretty well, that our local area has so much of a connection to the automotive industry. It helped to build our local area. How does that also get incorporated into what your team's doing over at the Pontiac Transportation Museum, incorporating not only Pontiac's automotive history, but really that of, like you said, all of our local communities?
It's something that we as a Southeastern Michigan community ought to be really, really proud of. Not only is there this industrial history that created a lot of wealth in the area historically, but you look at things like the World War II arsenal of democracy and kind of what this area contributed that affected world history literally. And we think every school kid ought to understand that and be proud of what happened in their communities. So we also intend, by the way, a lot of STEM outreach to schools to get younger people to understand that it really was the science, technology, engineering kind of a background that enabled this industry to grow in Southeastern Michigan.
Yeah, and to expand on that, that's part of what's happening this weekend. Is it's all about supporting our robotic students at West Bloomfield High School, Terry. And so as you incorporate sort of that history into cars and into automotive history in our local area, how do you translate that to students in a modern school environment today, in a modern learning environment where they've seen this technology their entire life? It just seems ubiquitous to them. How do you incorporate the historical element into what they're learning in the classroom and ultimately bringing to their robotics teams?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of specific spots in the Michigan state-defined curriculum for students that this makes sense to understand their local history. And then as they get later on in early high school years to understand kind of what might be career opportunities. So we intend to focus in both areas with visits to the school, with school visits to the museum. Thus far, at least talking to some of the local schools, they're very excited to have a place to go because they really don't have that, at least in the Pontiac community right now.
Terry Connolly is with us. He is the museum board chairman at the Pontiac Transportation Museum, which will be one of the stops along the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's historic poker rally this weekend in partnership alongside the West Bloomfield High School Atomigators, their robotics team, playing a key role in this. Now, your museum's in an interesting spot, too. We mentioned earlier on it's on Pike Street in Pontiac, but there's a lot of history also in the facility that you ultimately went into.
We're right in the center of the Franklin Historic District, which is a nationally recognized historic district in Pontiac. Has, I think, 23 houses, which were frankly the captains of the industry kind of houses in Pontiac from probably 1920 to 1950-ish time frame. So the building itself is actually a 1973 built school. So it's a fairly new building, but it's actually an ideal facility for a museum. It's turned out really well for us.
And a lot of it, Terry, is ran by volunteers, people who are enthusiasts for cars, for our local history, and more, that want to get involved in the community. Before we let you go, is there anything that people should know about the opportunities that are available to get involved at this new museum?
Absolutely. We have had over 12,000 hours of volunteer time put into this to date. And we would love to have people that want to do anything from clean up cars to play docents to help us market the museum, to help us account for the museum, build websites, et cetera. Lots of opportunity and lots of fun. I mean, a lot of people enjoy what they're doing.
More information on the Pontiac Transportation Museum can be found on their website, pontiactransportationmuseum.org. Joining us on the Splash Live is their museum board chairman, Terry Connolly. Terry, before we let you go, anything else that we should know at this time or keep in mind about the Pontiac Transportation Museum?
Just come and visit us. It's a wonderful legacy that everybody ought to have some background in, and I'm sure that everybody can find something interesting for their entire family there.
Yeah, it just opened at the end of July, and this weekend it'll open its doors to people looking for another one of those cards to help them in their poker hand at the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's Classic Car Show Poker Rally in partnership with West Bloomfield High School Robotics. Terry, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Glad to have Terry on with us to talk about the Pontiac Transportation Museum, just a little bit north of us in the Tri-Cities in Sylvan Lake and Keego Harbor, but a place that is definitely of interest to a lot of people in our local community, volunteering there, seeking to go there and see classic cars and learn more about the automotive history in Greater West Bloomfield and in northern and central Oakland County in the years to come, Kevin. An exciting place in Pontiac.
I'm gonna be honest, Tyler. I want to go there because some of my first cars that I had were Pontiacs, Pontiac Bonneville and things of that nature. And I love Pontiac, and the fact that they aren't here, I definitely have to go down that memory lane trip of Pontiac. So I think it's a very amazing place to go, and I'm happy that it's part of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society's Poker Rally Scavenger Hunt. Also, it makes things interesting.
Yeah, definitely one of the more interesting stops along the way on Sunday. If you still want to participate in that poker rally, you might still have a chance to do so. gwbhs.org. Otherwise, stop by about 8:30. Parking opens at West Bloomfield High School on Sunday for their car show and poker rally, and supporting our historical society in their 50th year serving our community. And of course, most importantly, it's supporting our high school students on that amazing robotics team we have off at WB. Well, we also, Kevin, have quite an amazing football team. Last year, 6 points, a couple of seconds, a couple of yards away from competing for a state championship. And in just a couple of weeks, the next campaign begins, starting off against the same opponent as in 2023, Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley. The Big Reds come to town on Family Fun Night on Thursday, August 29th. Joining us now on the program to preview this upcoming season as their team starts to transition from summer training into late summer and early fall practice is head coach Zach Hilbers. Thank you for being with us today. And now that we're getting to this point of the year, you're starting to transition away from training into formal practices. Lions have been in training camp. They just had their first preseason last night, unfortunately losing to the Giants 14-3. But how does this time of the year kind of shift the dynamics from preparation for conditioning to preparation to ramp up for the big season ahead?
Dynamics definitely change. And, it's funny, we kind of always get in this mentality, at least like, football coaches, where, we're allowed to do some stuff in the spring, not football related, but, you can lift and run and condition and stuff like that. So do small group workouts. So we could do it just because you get excited. And going from spring to summer, you're basically just kind of waiting for that calendar to turn so you can do a little bit more. And, so all summer we've been doing what we're supposed to, just doing a little bit more, adding and building and trying to get better. And now we're in that similar boat. Like we just want that calendar to turn to second week of August this year. We can kind of really get after it and start our training camp. And it's, it's a delicate balance because like I'm of the belief, like enjoy the present, enjoy every day, enjoy the process. But at the same time, we're pretty excited to get to, I guess, that next turning of the page, which is a couple weeks away.
And it's tough, too, as you're getting ready to not look back at your success from last season and look forward to this season, the schedule you have, the talent you have coming back, and think, much like the Detroit Lions as they start their training camp and they look back on being inches away from the Super Bowl and your team being literally one play goes your way, you are in the state championship game. So how do you balance that as you get ready for a season? And much like the Lions, use that as motivation of, we can get back there, but we got to work really hard right now to make that happen.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like, you use it as motivation, or at least you try to, but you also have to really drive home like this understanding that, like, we were 2 seconds away, like you mentioned, but there's no guarantee you're ever going to be in that situation again. Like, it's so hard just to get to, where we got last year. So if you want to be, one play better and get like one step closer to your goals, like you got to work really hard, and I think like the way the last season ended for us being so close, kind of like you mentioned with the Lions, you think like, oh, we're just, that close. If we do that much more, it's like, you have to do this much just to get it the opportunity to do that much more. And dealing with kids, you really have to drive that point home almost weekly. It's all these days out here when it's hot and we're out here running and sweating, like it's just to get an opportunity to make that extra play.
Yeah, it's tough too because in the state of Michigan, as football continues to grow and expand and become much like it is in Texas and in California and in Florida, where it is the big game of the year, the big season of the year, it's tough for people to sometimes take that step back and remember that these are kids still learning the game.
Yeah.
So how does that also factor in as you're not only teaching kids the game, but you're also developing players that are really, really talented at this level of their football career?
It's something I learned as I've been doing this for a while now, maybe 15 years ago or so, is when you had really talented players who were younger. So, or high school kids, they're all young, but like younger. Sometimes you get a really talented 15-year-old. And for some reason, when we're adults, we think like, wow, they're so advanced in this part of their life. They should be advanced in other parts, whether it's maturity or, just handling adverse situations, all that stuff. And a lot of times that's not the case. Like you have to teach those skills or they have to like, go through stuff to learn them like we all do. And it's a good, like refreshing lesson every year. That's like, you can be really good, but like you said, that they're kids and they go through the same stuff that all their kids do and their heads are all over the place. And we do our best to try to, like you said, get them pointed in the right direction, teach them some values, and then also like hopefully become better football players. And if we do it right, I think it can all coincide. Like all the goals can align in the same direction if done the right way. But it's always like it's a delicate balance because it's you want to push them as hard as you can towards our common goal, but also have the understanding like a lot of these guys are young and they're just like figuring it out. I'll be the first to say like I was an idiot when I was 16 years old. So a lot of them are a lot further along than I am. But it is always like a delicate balance for sure.
We're joined by Zach Hilbers, the head coach of the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team. Their season kicks off August 29th at 7 o'clock. That's a Thursday game. Family fun night from 5 to 7 before that at Lakers Stadium against Clinton Township, Chippewa Valley. We'll have coverage for you on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM leading up to the game and the game itself as well on that Thursday night before Labor Day weekend. And Coach, as we talk about that day coming up and we think about the last couple of seasons and much, again, like the Lions in Detroit and the support they have as their team continues to regain some sense of success. Your team has been in that mode for a number of years. How does the community support not only help you and your coaching staff continue to build this program, but also help those players have that extra layer of motivation as they go through what, again, is looking like a very tough schedule this year?
Yeah, schedule will be really hard, and it definitely helps quite a bit to have the community support. We've had pretty good support the last few years. Probably the last 10 or 12 years from our community, and it makes a difference just when you show up to home games and you have people there like that are have your back. I guess that are fans. They're supporting you, and the family fun night's always been an awesome event. This is the first time I think that I can ever remember it's our first game of the year, and it just kind of went with how the schedule went for us and our way our home games were spaced out. So we hope that, it's a really big event again. And it's awesome for kids. Our district does a great job bringing like all the elementary schools together for that one. And it's usually really well attended. And, I think it could be a real cool, like kind of culmination to everyone's summer. You know what I mean? Like we are going to be back in school that week as a district, but, that first week goes by in a blur. It's a 4-day week, and it's kind of, I don't know, just getting everybody back in the mode of going to school, hopefully. So hopefully it's another great event, and, people are there in full force.
Yeah, it really shows the full scope of our community from all these different organizations and all the different clubs in the school. And then you get to see a great football game and one of the prides of our community in the West Bloomfield Lakers football team. Again, August 29th, 7 o'clock kickoff for the football game. Family Fun Night will begin at 5 o'clock and run right up to just before that game. And Coach, before we let you go, I want to circle back to something we mentioned earlier on in our show, the day that you and I have been interviewing. Donovan Edwards, Dylan Tatum, Makari Page, all featured at Big Ten Media Days earlier on this week. We heard some clips of Dylan talking about his relationship with Donovan, Makari Page talking about the competition between Michigan and Ohio State, and Donovan Edwards taking a step forward, continuing to be an advocate for both student and athlete and general mental health. How are those role models setting the tone for your team today of what it takes to be a great Laker, but also be a great football player and young man going forward?
I mean, we're really fortunate to have a lot of guys playing football at the next level that people can turn on their TVs and watch. But to have like those three specifically that you mentioned, that are obviously really good football players, but there's a reason they were selected by their teams to be up there and represent their schools at media day. I'm pretty sure each school only brought 3 players, out of a team of whatever it is, 85. And that's because they just do stuff the right way. I mean, Makari has been like that since I can remember him. Like, he came in as just a quiet, like as a 14-year-old kid, like a quiet, hardworking kid that just, frankly, just did everything right. Everything. Like, he was a model student, polite, worked his tail off in every capacity, and it's been awesome. And, Dylan was a lot of that way too. And Donovan was probably the hardest worker we've had as a football player. And, his maturity process the last 6, 7, 8 years has been unbelievable to see. And I mean, they're there for a reason. So our kids definitely look up to those guys. Like, they reach out to me and say, "Hey, did you see it?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I saw it." Like, I was watching it, and any of us that coach them, because it's been a lot of us since those guys came in as freshmen, like, we're all proud of them. And, we just hope that they just keep going forward with, football or whatever their life goals are.
Yeah, so many great Laker legends are going to be playing at a high level this year and being impact players. We talk about Makari and Donovan, and we talk about Dylan Tatum. Samaj Morgan also expected to be a big pivotal player this year. Amir Herring moving on to Kansas. Maxwell Hairston, best hands in the land over at Kentucky, going to be one of the top D-backs in the entire country. So plenty to be proud of for Lakers as they look at Laker Nation as they look at the college football season, professional football, and of course, close to home with our high school team. Coach, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have Coach Hilbers on the program today to talk about this upcoming season. A lot to be excited about with this Lakers squad. Yes, they're losing a lot of key players from last year on the offensive and especially on the defensive side of the ball, but a lot of key players also coming back and some really interesting additions also. We'll have a chance to kind of dive into that a little bit in the coming weeks between this week in Laker football before that first big game on August 29th. And then, coming up early on next week, OAA Football Media Day will be visible on your screens. We'll have plenty of coverage from that. That's happening this afternoon. I'll be out at Rochester High School for full coverage with us on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. So stay tuned to civiccentertv.com. But you're seeing last year's event on your screen, the Lakers, the Clarkston Wolves, who gave them a couple of competitive games and an all-time classic in that playoff victory for West Bloomfield with that blocked field goal by Jameer Benjamin. Now at UCLA, the Lake Orion Dragons going to be a big rival again, especially as the class of 1974 from West Bloomfield comes in that weekend in October. An exciting season ahead for the Lakers, Kevin, in a way that really brings this community together into the fall. Nothing like high school football in Michigan.
I'm already feeling it, Tyler. You already took me there, man. Football, football, football. And I can't wait for our Lakers to get back out there on that field and perform, man. Get back to where we were last year and exceed expectations. I'm just excited as a football fan to actually see them out there on the gridiron, Tyler.
They got a big offensive lineman coming in from New Jersey who just transferred in January to West Bloomfield High School, going to be a key player. They're getting a really good quarterback from one of our local Catholic schools as well, so some competition in the quarterback room. And then they're bringing back two of their key players on the offensive side, and Cameron Flowers and Elijah Durham as well. A big season ahead for the Lakers as they try to get back to the semifinals, get over that hump, get back in the state championship game, and bring another banner back where it belongs, right here in WB. That's our time for this week here on the Splash Live. Plenty more always online, live, local, social, on CivicCenterTV.com, on our Facebook page at Civic Center TV 15, and on YouTube at Civic Center TV. For our entire team, Anthony Juba and Calvin Brown at Master Control, alongside Jake Schaff and Kevin McIntosh, I'm Tyler Keith. Thanks for tuning in to the Splash Live.